Guess what, Lions? For as little as $5 a month, you can get access to exclusive bonus audio content and help this program grow by joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. To learn more, head over to lionsofliberty.com/support.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, Felony Friday is the show where each and every week we seek to expose injustice in this nation's broken criminal justice system. But Felony Friday is not the only show that we have here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. We also have our Monday show hosted by Marc, where he interviews leading minds in the Liberty movement. Every Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land, hosted by Brian McWilliams, your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty. And this episode of Felony Friday is episode 104, which means, of course, you'll be able to find the show notes with links and notes to everything that I'm going to be discussing today with my guest, which is going to be extensive stuff. This is a felony review, a felonies trending in the news episode of Felony Friday. So there's going to be a lot of stories that you're going to want to read about and follow along and play at home. You can find all that stuff at lionsofliberty.com/FF104. And just one more note, and I'll introduce my guest. I want to tell you guys about Health Excellence Plus. Health Excellence Plus is an incredible free market alternative to your standard corporate health insurance. You can find out more about Health Excellence Plus at lionsofliberty.com/health. And I want to bring on my guest now, and this is the last Felony Friday of 2017. So what better way to wrap it up than bringing on another fellow Lions of Liberty here to talk about some felonies trending in the news? And what better person to bring on than the host of our Monday program, fellow Lions of Liberty co-founder, Marc. Welcome back to Felony Friday.
I can't think of anyone better personally. I tried, in the 2 seconds that I had between you posing that hypothetical, couldn't think of a single other person better, to be honest. I'm ready to keep the fires of liberty burning, Odie.
Yeah, and they call you the shining beacon of liberty. I don't know who they is.
They do.
I mean, the voice.
They is the Russians.
The Russians. Well, that's something. You got that going for you. The Russians think you're the shining beacon of liberty. That's pretty.
It's actually Dan
nice.
Smots. He's the voiceover artist on our newest intro for Lions of Liberty podcast. So that's technically who calls me that.
Secrets behind the curtain there. A peek behind the curtain. It's too much. I know too much. You know, I've always wondered, speaking of voices before, at the beginning of podcasts, part of the problem with Dave Smith, he has that long intro, and then a voice says, and here's your host, Dave Smith. Is that Mike Brancatelli? Because it sounds just like him.
See, I never thought of it before. Maybe.
I don't know.
Should I am Mike Brancatelli live on the show, and maybe we'll know by the end?
Maybe, yeah. That's not a bad idea.
I could.
It's not a bad idea at all. I think it is. It's just a conspiracy theory I have there.
All right. So. Maybe we'll save that for the next Conspiracy Corner, which will actually be coming next week for members of the Lions of Liberty Pride. That's right. I cannot go even 2 minutes without getting a plug-in.
And you can join the Pride by going to lionsofliberty.com/support. So.
See, I was going to let you finish it. I was going to let you bring it home.
But we have a lot to talk about today, and we have a time window to get all this stuff in. So I want to get started into this long list of stuff we want to tread through. Before we get into talking about some newer stuff trending in the news, new stuff happening in 2018, I want to look back and give an update on a case we talked about back in episode 55 at Felony Friday. Just a completely crazy case. This young woman has spent the last 11 years in jail. She was convicted of murder in Las Vegas, and the murder was gruesome. It was a homeless man had his penis cut off and was brutally murdered and disposed of in a dumpster. And the crazy thing about this case is there was zero evidence linking the murder to the young woman who was arrested and has now served 11 years in prison. The only thing that tied her to that murder was like a third level rumor about her cutting off a man's penis in Vegas. And
it was like a friend of a friend at school said something about her hearing she cut somebody's penis off in Vegas. That's literally the extent of the evidence. I remember that interview you did quite vividly. Too vividly, you might say.
Yeah, that interview was with The Intercept's investigative journalist Jordan Smith. She did a great job. Jordan Smith knows maybe more about this case than anyone. She dug into every corner of it, and there's a lot of evidence for these detectives to chase and find out who committed this murder, but they cast that all away. They went on this rumor, and they were able to convict this woman, Kristin Lobato. The update is that she got her conviction overturned. So at this point, it's either going to go to a new trial, which would be a good thing, because hopefully she can win, because she even has an alibi. She had an alibi at the time. She was in her home state near the border, her hometown near the border of Utah. But the defense came up with the prosecution came up with this crazy thing where she committed the murder, jumped in a car immediately, and drove all the way to that town to get there in time to be spotted driving on four-wheelers and drinking beer at like 10 in the morning. So this is just a crazy story. It's either going to get a new trial or the charges will get thrown out. We should know the details on that coming up, I think, mid-January, maybe January 18th, something like that. So we'll keep you posted on that one. And Marc brought up, I think, a great topic to talk about. And I think Marc can talk about it.
I don't remember doing that.
And I think Marc can speak to it better than a lot of people because he's living through it out there in crazy California. The crazy new laws taking effect in 2018 in the state of California. And there's a long article. I'll link to it on the show notes page that goes through each one. And we're not going to talk about everything. But I want to talk about there's some stuff affecting...
You would need an entire new, not just a new podcast episode, but you would need a new podcast feed to go through all the new laws, all the crazy new laws in California. So we don't have the time, and I don't think without net neutrality, we can even afford the bandwidth, frankly. So...
Yeah, well, you just gave someone a fantastic podcast idea, so that's free from the Lions of Liberty. There you go.
It's just called California's Crazy Laws, and someone's gonna snip that audio out and call me a net neutrality supporter at some point. I dare you. I challenge you. It's not true though.
I dare you. So first, I want to start off talking about hiring laws because, of course, California, they want to make it the fairest place ever to work. Every male, female, everyone's treated equally, and no one's discriminated against in hiring because what kind of employer would use discrimination to pick a candidate or an employee to work at their place? They should just pick, willy-nilly, just pick a form from the stack and just hire that person. Anyway, so the first hiring thing is prospective employers will no longer be able to decide how much money to offer. And this is coming from Assembly Bill 168. And what this does is it makes the salary history of job applicants can only be disclosed of voluntarily. So what that means is they can't give you a form that says, fill out your old salary history, blah, 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 and then come up with a salary that way. You have to do it without them even asking, which I'm sure a lot of people would, but probably a lot of people don't know that. So what's the reason for this, Marc? Why do you think they would do this in California?
Oh, the reason, I have no idea. You're coming to the wrong guy if you want the reasons for any of these things, because there are no logical reasons. I do remember when this first came out, I did see somebody saying, well, in theory, it's a good idea, but I don't know if it should be a law. And I was like, how is it even a good idea in theory? I'm missing this entirely. I don't know about you, John. I've never really done this, but I know a lot of people that apply for jobs and then have applied for jobs and that sort of thing. I don't know anybody that has ever said their real salary for when you're applying for a job, because you want to, typically you're aiming for a certain salary. You want to, pump up a little bit what you've made before, because that gives you more leverage to come somewhere else for a certain amount. There's no verification of that either, because they can't really call the old employer. The old employer isn't allowed to give out that specific salary info. So there's no really way to verify it anyway. So in some ways, maybe this doesn't have much of a real world effect. But how dumb is this law? Just how dumb is this law? You can't even ask. You can't even ask a question. And somebody applying for a job can feel free to give the answer. I don't want to give that. I don't feel comfortable providing that information. I don't think that's an answer like anybody would ever give, because you want to give an answer because you're in a negotiation. You're in a negotiation to get a job, so you don't want to seem like you like made nothing, because why did you make nothing? Why are you so poorly paid? Were you not a good employee? Like, I don't know. I think most people are going to use that as leverage, or attempt to use the conversation about salary as leverage. So I don't see why the state of California would just attempt to remove that from the conversation, or at least from one end of the conversation. I suppose anybody could still go into a job interview and say, well, I used to make this, but for whatever reason, if the employer specifically asks, that is now disallowed. Again, I don't know the reason. I really don't. Can you think of a reason this makes any sense, even from it sort of makes sense kind of point of view?
I can't think of a reason why it makes sense. I think the reason in the article they gave, don't quote me exactly, I'm not reading it, but it was something to the effect of, this should help to close the gender wage gap somehow. I'm not sure exactly how it would close the gender wage gap, but that's the reason that they're using. Another hiring bill I want to talk about, Mark, relates to this show, I think, 100%, and we've talked about a lot on this show, is the ban the box movement. And previously, California had passed another law where they did ban the box, but it was only in government jobs in the public sector. This bill, Assembly Bill 1008 or 1008, I don't know the right way to read bill numbers, but it would ban it across everything, across all employee applications. So what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that could be helpful? Is it overreach into the private sector?
This is a little bit of a trickier one. It's not really, because at the end of the day, I'm also against this one for pretty much the same reason. You shouldn't be banning private entities from asking people questions. But this is a little trickier just because we know about the stigma, as you know, from doing this show for, what is it now, 2 years? It's almost 2 years.
It's been over 2 years, yeah, more than 2 years. No, almost 2 years, over 100 episodes, yeah, almost 2 years.
There you go. Yeah. 2 years plus of doing Felony Friday, plus, you did a column for over a year plus before that. So, full well the stigma associated with being a felon, with having a criminal history. So I think it's a good thing if that doesn't hurt people, if that hurts people less. However, that's a completely separate argument from, should we ban private entities from asking these questions? Frankly, employers have every right to know the background of the people they're hiring. I hope that they don't hold minor, drug possession against them. I think we can work in a more voluntary way to build a world like you're trying to do on Felony Friday, by showing people that might have a conviction or might have a felony on their record aren't terrible people, shouldn't be disbarred from working or having housing or anything like that. But we're adding a new crime. We're adding a new layer of government intervention when we're talking about banning the question. And frankly, we want to talk about the war on drugs and how many people that didn't commit real crimes in terms of the non-aggression principle there are that are in prison. But let's say someone is a murderer, or I don't know, did commit some serious crimes, you don't necessarily want someone who does have a past of, say, jewelry thievery, or to be hired in a jewel store for security. There is some logical reasons for employers to want to know the criminal history of the people they're hiring. Not everybody will maybe exercise that right. And I'm pretty much on board with a lot of the ban the box movement when it comes to government entities. But, you really should not be adding new laws that prevent employers from just simply asking questions about the history, whether it's salary history or criminal history or what have you, of its prospective employees. They have every right to ask the questions, and the employees have every right to not want to go to places that ask certain questions as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, but just to play devil's advocate, I think that with the nature of a lot of these crimes being nonviolent crimes, people selling a little bit of marijuana, a little bit of whatever drug, consensual transactions, getting thrown in prison for that, having that stay on their record and stain their future forever. With the nature of that, it's saying correct. It's saying you can't ask that question on the employment form, but it's not saying you can't submit that person to a background check. If we did have in a more free society where we didn't have these pre-crime type laws throwing nonviolent people in prison, then I would 100% agree with you. Let's
It's kind of a pointless law in that case then, because if the employer wants to know at the end of the day, they run the background check. So
yeah, I wouldn't say it's not pointless though, because it gets the person in the door to be able to explain their story, to say what happened, and put a face with the with the checkbox or with the background check when it comes up, to be able to say what happened. Say this was 10 years ago. I was in a bad situation. I've done this and this since then. I mean, or whatever. To not even to justify
even
it,
having the box can do that, because as you know from your experience, from your story about how you started thinking about this issue in the first place, you started putting people aside that had checked the box of felony, but your boss knew better because he was a good businessman and he knew that a lot of those employees were better employees. It actually might have helped some of them. So maybe it's just information to have. I do see your point.
Yeah,
still wouldn't change my position on whether it should be a law or not. I don't think it would change yours either. I don't think.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating for. I'm all for taking it out of the government, the public sector, take the box off of those forms.
In fact, maybe we should expand the box. Maybe the box should be a paragraph or a page.
There you go.
Where you get to explain in detail. This is the new movement. I just got a brilliant revelation. Although it might not catch on with the ban the box people. But expand the box. Let people explain. Make it more than a box. Don't just have a box. Say explain in full detail. Maybe you can include a video. We have technology nowadays. Include a little selfie video explaining yourself. If you're serious about this job and this company is serious about knowing the background of its prospective employees, expand the box.
That is freaking genius. Mark, that might be the best idea you've ever had in your life. Seriously.
Wow, that's saying a lot. I think.
Expand the box. Hashtag expand the box.
Expand the box.
That's going to be the title of this episode. Probably not, but it would work. All right, so we'll keep on moving. I want to talk quickly about election laws because this one just blew me away. Senate Bill 450, which passed. Oh, hold on. This passed in 2016, but I guess is only going into effect in 2018. I guess that's what it means.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of the laws that they pass. When they have these little votes here, they'll have a vote in like November of a year, but it's not going to go into effect necessarily a month later.
Okay,
sometimes
gotcha.
It'll go into effect a whole year later. So like recreational marijuana was passed in at the same time, I think November of 2016. It partially went into effect last year because you can now have possession of marijuana, but you can't actually, they don't have the retail stores set up until January 1st of 2017. So there was a year gap in the law, which seems pretty silly, of when stores are allowed to sell it recreationally and when people are allowed to have it recreationally. Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't make any sense. But it's not supposed to. It's the government.
Exactly.
So.
No, why would it make sense? It's really because they wanted time to come up with the full regulatory scheme and for like the process of how to get a license and all that stuff. That's
they had to figure out how to skim the money off the top.
Yeah, right? How can we make a little dime off this?
Exactly. But with this election thing, it's so strange because it seems like they're moving everything to basically mailing in your ballot. So we're going like back in time now? Everyone's using the mail when nobody is using mail for anything else. Everyone's going to use it for elections. What the hell's going on here?
Well, I mail in my ballot right now just because I'm lazy and I don't like to go places. And although I've never had a line, I see all these stories on the news about lines for elections. Every time I've gone to vote, whether here in California or in Connecticut where I lived before, I just walked right up and voted. So I've literally never seen a line. I don't know where these places are that have just massive amounts of people trying to vote and little demand and little supply of voting booths. But
I
digress.
I've never had to wait in even behind one person to vote. So yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Me neither. I've never had a single wait, and yet I watch the news on election night. There's like people around the corner waiting for. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we've grew up in privileged places, but I grew up both in the suburbs in Connecticut. Fairly privileged. I think that's fine to say. Also, I've lived in not the best parts of LA and had the same experience. So whatever.
Who the hell knows what's going on? All right, next one I want to talk about. Very divisive topic in the United States is parental leave, maternity or paternity leave. And Senate Bill 63, if a business has between 20 and 49 employees, they're now guaranteed up to 12 weeks unpaid paternal leave. So not paid, but you have to give someone that leave. You can't fire them. You have to give them that unpaid leave. And this is during leave taken within the first year of a child's birth, an adoption, or a foster care placement. So these are the smallest companies that are skimming by on the smallest margins. they don't have to keep the person on the books and pay them, but they could have to bring someone else on to train. And who knows, maybe 2 week increments whenever this person decides to take their vacation. And I don't know. It seems like you're saddling small business here with something they can't handle. What thoughts on this, Mark?
Hey, I like at least it only guarantees unpaid time off. So at least they're not forcing the employer to pay more money. I'm only stating why it's less bad than it could be, not why it's good. But there was a separate bill that does actually, boost the amount of state compensation. So that's tax money. So that's not great either. But, ultimately, no. This is just like the ban the box, expand the box movement. The state should not be intervening and stating the terms not only upon which employees are hired, but upon which they remain employees. I like to think most good employees of a company are going to be able to negotiate a reasonable amount of time off, whether some combination of paid or unpaid, even if they don't have it worked into their agreement or their contract. Most companies do have some kind of amount of paternal leave. The vast majority of them do. Some don't, and the only ones that don't, who's not going to? I'll give you one guess. Who's probably not going to be offering that stuff? Do you have any guesses?
I don't know. I don't think I do.
It might be okay. It's not a trick question. Maybe I should just say that again. Let me just tell you, the only people that are the ones that don't offer any kind of leave right now, and those are small businesses or struggling businesses mom and pop type shops. Places that are not humongous companies. Literally everybody I know that works for a large company has maternal leave now, or parental leave, I should say. Now it's maybe not be an extra 12 weeks like this law is demanding or whatever. But, this is, again, not an area the state should be involved. You cannot force a business to hold a position. I guess you can. According to California law now, you should not be able to force a business to hold a position just in stasis against their will, no matter what, just because an employee had a child. And this includes men, too. So, you could just go out and knock someone up every month, I guess, and they'd have to keep giving you, maybe not every month, as long as you space it 12 weeks apart. I think they'd have to keep giving you 12 weeks unpaid leave. Then you can, go to half take care of a child, and maybe you can get another job in the meantime if you want. Just scam the whole system under this law.
Just keep getting foster kids. Just every month, another foster kid. But I mean, the thing with this law that no one ever talks about is that this is all the consequences of past policy decisions of the Federal Reserve really weakening the dollar and making it so in order to have a really good life in the United States where you have a nice house and a comfortable life. Both parents, in most cases, are really need to work, at least to some degree, need to make income in some way. And I don't really think, it's not so long ago that wasn't the case. And a lot of people will say, that's all changed because women, if there's more equality now, women can be in the workplace. I think, that's fantastic that there's, women are in the workplace and there's more women, going after their careers and chasing their dreams, starting businesses, being entrepreneurs. That's all great. But I think
there's the luxury of a more advanced society, ultimately.
Yeah. But I think there should be an option. It shouldn't be where people are handcuffed. One thing that you don't hear talked about ever is we're coming into our first generation now, really. I think it's really the generation after the millennials that the majority of these kids have grown up going to daycare. That's not really the case for previous generations. Of course, there's been growing percentages as we've gone on through time of kids going to daycare, but I think there's a changing dynamic going on where parents are being forced to work, maybe in most cases more corporate jobs where you're working 40, 50, 60-hour weeks and spending more time away from your kids. And when you look at it, I don't think that most parents would look at it as a good thing, the more time they spend away from their kids. Maybe there are some parents who do want to spend more time away from their kids, but I think generally parents want to spend more time with their kids, helping their kids grow, helping them learn, helping them to be, good people when they grow up. So I don't know. I'm going off on my rant here, but
No, I mean, I totally agree with you. Believe it or not, I actually do know. I know some parents. Now, these are not parents of like small children. These are parents whose teenagers or whose kids are teenagers, and they get excited when it's school time because now they don't have to be with their kids all summer, I guess, or whatever. They get excited to send their kids back to school. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like I think that sounds crazy. I don't have kids. I can't speak to it. But I guess some parents do get.
Well, I'm not even saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know. Then you get into the whole debate, homeschooling versus public school.
We're talking about something totally different than that, though. We're talking about how they're raised, really. This is more about how the children are raised and how that development occurs. And maybe we have very different kinds of adults that when they're not raised as much by their parents. Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, both my parents worked, but I didn't go to daycare, really. Like, I had combinations of a sister and babysitters and not so far into my childhood taking care of myself after school.
Oh, my God. Taking care of yourself?
It sounds crazy, but even as young as like 9-10 years old, I would just come home after school and I'd be fine. I didn't die. Here I am still to this day somehow. So I would get on the bus. I would walk myself home from the bus stop because my bus stop was, at 3/4 of a mile uphill. And then I would enter my house and breathe and eat and do all the things humans do without dying. So, it's amazing. You don't really, I don't know how, I don't think 8- and 9-year-olds go to daycare so much, but I feel like there's just more of a tendency that children need to be watched by adults at all times. Obviously, there's ages, at very young ages, they definitely do need to be watched at all times, but I feel like that age has been going up and up and up and up and up.
Yeah. And I know there's a compounding effect of, in order for people to get jobs now, they have to move away from where they grew up, so they're moving away from their parents, so you don't have the grandparents in the same town to watch the kids, and that's why more kids are in daycare. So it's a whole mess.
Stay tuned for Odie and I's
spin-off
podcast, The Parents of Parenting, where one dad and one non-dad just pontificate about the right and wrong ways to parent.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's what we do. Now, I did want to make one other point on this unpaid leave, paternal leave thing. Speaking of people like me that don't have kids, how fair is this to them? You're basically, this is unpaid, but that's still time off. But I mean, there's other laws that do guarantee, other laws on the books and being presented where people argue for everyone should be forced to get certain amounts of leave, or companies should be forced to give certain amounts of paid leave. And so basically, people who have kids get extra compensation that the employees that don't have kids don't get. That doesn't seem fair at all.
There's no equality under the law there, that's for sure.
But some will argue that it's really about just like, the same reasons that I should pay for public schools and that sort of thing that my kids don't go to and that just make kids dumber and don't even really teach them how to read, actually hinder their reading, that I should pay for them because it furthers and betters society. This is an argument. These are arguments I hear in real life, for the record.
Yeah, well, you live in California.
Kids go to school in California, which has the worst by far. This is well documented results of their public schools in pretty much the entire country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you.
No, you're not. Don't want to do that. It's a bad idea.
But I do want to talk about, we'll skip immigration because I think everyone knows about immigration in California. California wants to let all the immigrants in. Pretty much, I think.
California's cool with the homeless, as they say in South Park, and cool with everybody else. And I'm generally okay with that, for the record, but,
There was a weird line, actually. I did want to talk about this. So, actually, California is sort of they're using states' rights. They're exercising their right. They're not allowing federal immigration enforcement officers to do certain things. They're not allowed to ask about someone's immigration status. They're not allowed to detain them on a hold request.
A little nullification in action.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a weird one, a little bit crazy.
Somewhere Tom Woods is shedding a tear.
Unless they've been convicted of one or more than 800 crimes. So I'm not sure. So I guess there's
800?
I guess there's the first time I read it, I thought it said unless they've been convicted of 800 crimes, but I think there's like a range of crimes that if they commit any of those 800 crimes,
there's a list of 800, and if they committed one of them, you don't have to add up 800 individual crimes.
Exactly. Well, you can see someone going down a list. Which crime is it? They're flipping through this book of crimes. So,
which crime can we kick this guy out of the country for?
Exactly.
I know many of you are facing major decisions with your healthcare right now, and I want to make sure that you know about an amazing alternative to your standard corporatized health insurance known as Health Excellence Plus. Health Excellence Plus is an incredible program that helps you keep medical costs under control by taking charge of your own healthcare and not leaving all the decisions about what doctors you see and what procedures you need or don't need up to some corporate bureaucrat. Along with providing 24/7 access to medical professionals, tax-deferred health savings accounts, and preventative care, Health Excellence Plus empowers you to finally take control of your healthcare. To learn more, head on over to lionsofliberty.com/health or call the special hotline for Lions of Liberty listeners at 855-290-4447. Be sure to mention Lions of Liberty.
But let's move off immigration and talk about guns, because everybody loves guns except for California. And Assembly Bill 424 is eliminating a policy implemented only last year that gave school administrators authority to decide whether employees with concealed carry permits should be allowed to bring their firearms onto campus. That is now being revoked, I guess, completely. And so all firearms are now banned again, from my understanding of this bill. Assembly Bill 725, someone convicted of a hate crime will lose their right to possess a gun for 10 years. So that's
Is there ever been a more arbitrary law than that one?
That's the dumbest law I've ever heard of.
First of all, hate crime. I mean, I don't know the official list of what constitutes hate crimes in California, but let's just say the definition is subjective. I think we all agree on that.
Oh, yeah, very subjective.
And then we'll just add a random time of, well, if you did something hateful, 10 years, no guns.
Hey, you're basing the escalation of the crime on the pigment color of the person committing the crime's skin. So
exactly,
how much more stupid can you get than that? It's pretty dumb, pretty uncivilized,
pretty dumb.
So yeah, let's talk about ammunition in California. And I think I'm getting this right. In order to purchase ammunition starting in 2018 in California, you have to buy through a licensed vendor. So even if you order online, you have to go to someone's. I guess it'll be like if you're going to firearms licensed vendor like we do in Pennsylvania. You order a gun online. It could be in someone's house, but they have a license to sell firearms or work on firearms, and you go pick up your gun there.
They're basically treating ammunition like it falls under like you need like an FFL. I don't know. It's not the same license, but they have to be licensed to distribute ammunition, which obviously all regular gun stores and gun ranges will get. And so now, even if I want to go online and order ammunition, I will have to have it shipped to the gun store. So you got to get it sent to the gun store, then you got to pay a fee, especially if it's from out of state. I think it's even a higher fee. So usually it doesn't even make sense to do that if you're going to get a gun out of state. But yeah, you can't just have a gun delivered to your house. I'm sure most gun control advocates think that's a wonderful thing. Why would you want to have a gun delivered to your house? I don't know, because it's really convenient. That's why I would if I were to buy a gun online. But I never have because I live in California. But now I guess the same thing will apply to ammunition. I have bought ammunition online.
Well, if you buy it online next year, you're going to have to go to a
it's over. No,
licensed
I just
vendor
stocked up, so hopefully I'll be good for a while. I don't shoot my gun very often. Occasionally I go to the range and I shoot no humans. So,
well, that's good. All right, so moving from guns to California hates guns, but they love marijuana. So we'll move to something Californians love. And as California legalized in 2016 with Prop 64, legalized recreational marijuana. But I don't really understand. Maybe, Mark, you can translate this for me. So it is legal for purchase for adults 21 and older to buy up to an ounce of weed, 8 grams of cannabis concentrates, but only in cities that have permitted stores? Well, I don't quite understand how that works.
Okay, so the actual, I can't just up one day and go outside and start selling marijuana to people. You have to have a business license, and it's up to individual cities and municipalities to give out those licenses and decide, zoning wise, where marijuana is allowed to be sold and the terms and conditions, I guess, upon which those licenses are granted. So essentially, you could have localities that ban marijuana, or not ban marijuana criminally, but don't allow the sale, don't allow the licensing and sale and that kind of thing. And you might even end up seeing that in certain parts of like Central California and more conservative areas. But wouldn't criminalize, like, even right now, the part you're talking about goes into effect in 2018, but even right now, like I mentioned earlier, possession is totally legal, under a certain amount, under the amount that they would consider potentially for sale, which I believe is like an ounce of marijuana. So right now, anybody can just have an ounce or under of marijuana, no problem. I cannot sell that ounce to anybody. I don't have this ounce that we're talking about, by the way. Hypothetically, I don't know why I keep using me in this example, but you need a business license to sell recreational marijuana, and it is up to the cities, or the cities and municipalities to decide the terms of that those licenses are issued upon. So states basically like regulate away, everybody, or don't.
So it's really just another way to get tax dollars. That's what we're talking about here. Okay, so let's we talked for a while about the California stuff, which is great. There was a lot more than I thought initially, and I should have expected that, since California is basically a communist war zone.
Pretty much. I'm in the trenches.
I do want to skip, so we'll just skip ahead and we'll play. I have two stories I want to talk about and play. Is it a crime, and should they do time?
Is it a crime? Should they do time? Or do you think they learn their lesson from a hefty fine? Is it a crime? Should they do time? And since we have to ask the question, is the system down or out of line?
The first one, Mark, I think you posted, I'm pretty sure you posted this one in the forum. It's really disturbing one about a Georgia cop that forced a man to decapitate his own dog in order to find out if the dog had rabies. So this investigator, James Hollis, this is in Crawford County, and he arrived at the home of Joe Goodwin after Goodwin's dog had allegedly bit two people. After the sheriff shot the animal, Hollis, the investigator, took it upon himself to investigate, in air quotes, whether the dog had rabies, and he did this by forcing the owner, at the point of a gun, to cut off his dog's head. And that is not exaggerating. That is exactly what happened. The investigator said, if you do not do this, you will be arrested. And I'm sure if you resist arrest, you will be killed. So it doesn't get any more clear than that. So this investigator forced this dog's owner, who just watched his dog get shot and killed, forced him to cut his dog's head off at the point of a gun. So my question to you on this, Mark, is this a crime on part of this police investigator?
This is absolutely a crime. It is a crime on the part of James Hollis, I believe, is the investigator.
Yes.
I think he should be named because he is a threat to society. He is a sick human being. This doesn't even fall under, well, it's just how the cops were trained. This is not how the cops are trained, or at least, I mean, it's not how they're supposed to be trained. They do seem to be trained to shoot dogs. We've seen a lot of incidents of that. Ultimately, police officers are trained to defend their lives. They should be allowed to defend their lives in general, but they're basically trained to shoot under any threat. And basically, if they decide a dog is a threat, they can shoot the dog, which is obviously very subjective. If they're scared of a dog, they can shoot it. So it's bad enough that they're going to shoot the dog. But this whole thing, and I did some research trying to find if there's even some remote insane logic behind this. Obviously there's no moral logic behind it, but like, where did this officer even get the idea that the way you look for rabies is by chopping a dog's head off? I don't know where this came from, or how he thinks he or this guy would be qualified to determine if the dog had rabies by decapitating it. Like, am I missing something here, or is this the most disturbing, insane thing ever? This Hollis, this James Hollis of Crawford County, whatever the effing state it is in. I don't know why I'm censoring myself. But I feel like Felony Friday is where I just got to be like a nice choir boy who sells ounces of marijuana. But I mean, this guy, I don't know if he's on meth or if he is just a complete psychopath or where he got this idea, let alone not to brush over the fact that this dog was summarily executed as if he was convicted of this crime of potentially, because I guess he was there because somebody said the dog bit people. I don't know if he did or didn't. If the dog did bite people, like I think there's a right to at least investigate that matter. I'm not going to say that is because a dog biting someone would be a crime upon the owner of the dog.
And there's different types of dog bites, right? I mean,
yes, absolutely.
There's little nips, and there's life-threatening bites. So, yeah, I think that's
although under the eyes of the law, there's really not. It's actually a dog bite is kind of a dog bite. The way the law sees it, most people aren't going to go try to get a dog put down for like a bite or something like it. But in theory, it's again very subjective. Just as the subjective, decision this officer made to have this dog beheaded by his owner. I mean, even if by some crazy logic you think that a dog should be beheaded. On what planet is the owner of the person that's supposed to perform this weird, like, autopsy of the dog in his home of his own? I mean, imagine like telling someone to chop their child's head off for any reason. I mean, after it was just shot by someone. I mean, it's the most insane, honestly disturbing thing. Especially, I mean, I have dogs. I'm a dog lover. You have a human child. I have dog children. I can't even imagine if this was something I was forced to do. I would not do it. I like to say I would not do it. Maybe if a crazy person who thinks it's a good idea to cut a dog's head off and test it for rabies is pointing a gun at me, maybe I do it. I don't know. But this is completely insane. There are not many people I should say should be locked behind bars and not be allowed to participate in society. I'm pretty damn sure James Hollis is one of them, of Crawford County. I still don't know what state this is. I can't find it in this article. But whatever. If you're in any Crawford County, watch out for Mr. Hollis. He's psycho.
This is a violent crime committed by James Hollis. Threatening violence to do a completely insane thing. I'd like to have James Hollis tested for rabies. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Incredible. I don't know. There's not much more to say about it. This is one of just the most absurd and hard to even imagine that it happened stories of 2017. It's so crazy that Snopes it's been challenged if it even happened. But Snopes, for what it's worth, and it is true because it's a true story, I can vouch for it. But Snopes is giving it a true rating also, so you can take that one to the bank, liberals. All right, and the last one here that we have for Is It a Crime and Should They Do Time? A controversial one, I think, for Apple lovers like yourself, Mark. It's come to our knowledge here recently. A conspiracy theory has been confirmed. Apple, the company that so many people love so much that they'll wait in line for hours just to get expensive, overpriced products, they have been secretly stifling the performance of older iPhones in order to encourage people to upgrade to newer iPhones. And they've tried to justify this by saying that they were stifling the performance so the iPhones did not shut down unexpectedly. I'm not even sure what that even means. But the question here is, has Apple committed some sort of fraud here by doing this and not disclosing this? And is this fraud punishable? I mean, should there be some sort of punitive damage or reimbursement to the users?
Is it a fraud? And should they? I don't know. What rhymes with fraud?
Should they? I don't know. I'm terrible with rhyming. Yeah. Brian would know this.
Yeah. Should they be named mod? Yeah, I don't know. It's a bad punishment, being named mod. Apologies to any mods listening, by the way. Yes, it's fraud. Of course it's fraud. It's okay, so if forget that Apple sold you the device. What if, like, my neighbor figured out how to hack in my phone and started shutting it down and throttling the speeds and stuff like that? That would be fraud, right? I mean, not fraud. It would be a crime, right? It would be an invasion of my property. So it's definitely no different if the person if the company that sold you the phone and sells you the cell phone service does it. It makes it worse. It makes it even worse that it's the company that you actually have a contract for service with. And part of that contract is certainly not, throttling your phones or whatever the term they use is. What was it? Yeah, it is throttling. Hey, look at me. They don't, by interrupting your service in a deceptive manner to sort of force you. It's always been a running joke with iPhone people and Apple people that, the new iPhone's coming out. Guess my phone's going to slow down, because this kind of stuff does get noticed and people do talk about it. So this has been something that's gone around as a sort of conspiracy theory for a long time. But Apple, I guess, actually got caught and were basically forced to admit it after denying it for many years. So they're clearly have been deceptive. They're clearly, to me, defrauding their customers. Maybe some hardcore free market types will defend their right to do whatever they got to do in the free market. I will say this is at least a violation of contract, if nothing else.
So, like, what kind of what should be the punishment? I mean, should there be some sort of reimbursement?
Apple goes to jail. Apple goes to jail. I imagine there will be a class action lawsuit. The thing about class action
Everyone
lawsuits,
gets $1. Yeah.
I'm all for them in like the idea that a company should pay when they screw people over. The problem is that with a class action lawsuit, usually, like you said, it's like 500,000 people get in the lawsuit. There's 2 lawyers that run it. They get like 20% of the huge million, whatever, summation. Right. So they get a huge check. And then the rest of it gets, the other 80% gets divided up between hundreds of thousands of people or whatever it is. And everyone gets $7. I just got one the other day. I have a check for like $7 from AT&T. From some lawsuit. I haven't cashed it. I probably will lose it. I'll probably never see that money. It's probably gone now. Yeah, because it's like $7. If it was cash, I'd be like, cool, I got $7. A check? Really? I got to go deposit a check? Even and I say go, I can deposit checks on my phone. I'm too lazy to even do that for $7. That's crazy.
Oh, what a world we live in today.
I don't know. Maybe there's a better way. I think there should be. Yeah, I do think they should face. I think if anything, maybe they'll face market punishment. I think it should be mostly market punishment. Like I don't think Apple CEO Tim Cook should go to jail. It's not a crime on the level of that. We would normally talk about. I don't normally talk about, it's not like a crime on the level of, say, James Hollis. It's not as bad as making someone decapitate their dead dog.
Right. But, okay, so for example, you're saying market punishment. You're an Apple user, right? You have an iPhone, you have an Apple computer. Are you going to stop buying Apple?
I knew you were going to call me out. Why do you even bring this to your attention? I probably won't. I haven't had problems. Let's see what happens. The new iPhone X came out. I've had no problems with my phone. Maybe they will right their ship. If I learn about some class action lawsuit, I'll probably fill out the form online and like not deposit the $11 check eventually. Yeah, I mean, will I really vote with my dollars? The pain I'd have to have enough pain to do it. I mean, there's certainly a point where I would, I think, if my devices were all unusable, if I can't edit my podcast anymore because Apple's sending viruses to my computer, so I buy a new one. Like, yeah, at some point you cut bait. But to me, most of my personal experience with Apple products is that they're fast and they work efficiently and they do the things I need them to do. So, if my outrage is sort of sequestered to, a couple years ago, my phone got a little slow a couple times, and now I'm mad about this article a little bit. Like, no, I probably won't make a huge change because that's a lot of change because all my stuff is in Apple. But there are points. Sure, there's certainly points. If Tim Cook comes over and shoots my dog and tries to make me decapitate it, like I'm totally leaving Apple at that point. I think that would be
That's the line
for me.
That's the line. Drawing the red line. Yeah.
That's pretty much my thin red line. You shoot my dog and try to make me decapitate him at gunpoint, we're pretty much done here. This is war. I'm declaring war on James Hollis. He's the most disgusting human being I've ever read about. And he's not convicted of this crime. I'm just going off a news story. Maybe it's wrong. If so, I apologize, Mr. Hollis.
Can you declare war on another individual?
Just did. In libertarian utopia, you can.
There you go.
I think. I don't know.
Send a private...
Ask Roger Paxton.
Private militia to his house.
Roger Paxton, tell me if I can declare war. You are my liberty god.
Roger, liberty god. Roger just got his Make Liberty Great Again hats in the mail from our Liberty Draft election.
Oh, did he really? Speaking of crimes, should election rigging and bribing in Liberty Drafts be a crime? And should Odie do crime?
That was not a bribe. That was just a friendly gift among friends.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Liberty Draft.
Liberty Draft. Go check out the Liberty Draft. Now you need a link to it in the show notes. Yeah. So new fans of the show, and we do have a lot of new listeners coming in from the Part of the Problem podcast, from the Tom Woods podcast, because we are spending all the money. We are spending every damn dime from the Lions of Liberty Pride members. You send us that money, and we do not use it to go to fancy dinners. We do not use it to go out on the town. We use it to promote this podcast, buy new equipment, and I can see we are actually on video right now because we're testing out the possibility of doing video stuff in the future, and I can see the new equipment with my own eyes. I see Odie's new mic, his filter there, his stand. It's all right there.
It's a wonderful world that we live in. That stuff like this exists. That you can start a podcast and you get people who love it and support it, and those people can get behind you and help you to spread your message. It's truly an incredible thing. And just this past week, how many people have joined the Pride with we're running a little deal over Christmas, the 25th and 26th. We got a bunch. I don't know.
On the spot. Well, there may very well be more by the time this airs. But I think we had like 7, I want to say, in the last week.
Yeah.
Actually, I can count right now. Actually, in the last week, we have had even more than that. I'm really underplaying this. If you extend the week, we're recording on Wednesday, so let's see. If you extend the week to one extra day, give me 8 days back, then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 new Pride members in the last 8 days. That's pretty good.
That's pretty damn good. And those, I think the ones who signed up on the 25th and 26th at least, they got the deal where you got the stuff from the level above. So $5, you got the T-shirt and the koozie. $10, 2 T-shirts and the koozie. $25, 3 T-shirts and the koozie. Plus, of course, and a poster, $25. Plus, of course, all the other stuff you get, all the free bonus content. Not free, the bonus content, exclusive content.
You pay us money for it.
But, yeah, if you pay for it, it's free. There you go.
There you go.
But
once you send us money, then it becomes free.
So since we had a lot of success, a lot of people jumped at getting in on these bonus entries, getting more free merch from us, which is fantastic. And I mean, the goal is to get more people in the Pride and grow our support and ultimately fund more advertising on other podcasts. Since it worked so well before, and there's probably more people who didn't hear about it, maybe just missed the opportunity, we are going to extend. We're going to have 2 more days on January 1st and January 2nd where we're going to offer that deal once again. So
do it all again.
Yeah, if you're looking
Christmas
to join
bonus.
the Pride, this will be the last time we do it, probably until next Christmas. That's not even a joke.
If ever. I don't know. We're losing money on this.
Yeah, we're losing
short-term money anyway.
Yeah, we're losing a lot of short-term
honestly,
money.
We're just trying to give some extra thanks to all the new people that are coming in, like I said, from these various shows, and as well as many of our longtime fans that are just getting around to signing up. Give you that extra bonus, that extra merch to wear around town, and tell all your friends about Lions of Liberty. So, we appreciate all the new signups. We got loads of them coming, and more pouring in every day. So, let's do it again. Why not?
Absolutely. And for the new listeners out there, I mean, if this is your first episode you're hearing, this is Felony Friday, obviously. Marc, who I'm talking with here, has his own show on Monday, and Brian on Wednesday. You can get all 3 of those shows by subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever app you use to get your podcast. So be sure to please do that. And please, even if you don't use iTunes, please, if you like what you hear and you want to help the podcast grow, please go to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, leave a nice review. And, I mean, that helps us just tremendously in those wacky iTunes algorithms that somehow you rise and fall with. Don't even know how it works. But anyway, doing that would be much appreciated. Anything else to add before I let you go?
I think that's it. I just want to encourage everyone to live long.
No, not today.
I'm sorry. I'm on the wrong show. Tune in Monday. I want to tell everybody to tune in Monday because what is Monday, Odie? Do you know what day Monday is?
Monday is New Year's Day. First day of the year.
It is New Year's Day. You passed that test. Yes, Monday is New Year's Day. And how better to celebrate New Year's Day than by having a New Year's party? So we're going to have a New Year's party on Monday. That's right. We're going to have libertarians in living rooms drinking liquor with you. You're going to be there. Brian will be there. Who knows who else will be there? I know. Howie Snowden will be there.
And
maybe special guests. Probably not.
And we are the only libertarian podcast working on New Year's, maybe? Maybe someone else is working, but
I think I don't know. Like we got... These are all podcasts I love, but Jason Stapleton, on vacation. Tom Woods, on vacation. Chris Spangle of We Are Libertarians, on vacation. Johnny Rocket Launchpad, I don't know where he's at. I think he's in Texas or something. Everyone's on vacation. Remzo Martinez, mid-season break. Every libertarian podcast, seemingly, takes a break. And nothing wrong with that. People need breaks. But we are psychos. We are completely insane, and we don't take a break. We just keep podcasting 3 days a week, all year round, nonstop, holidays, New Year's, Christmas, whatever. Because that's how much we care.
We don't take breaks. We don't believe in breaks.
That's how much we care about stopping the James Hollises of the world that go around cutting fucking dogs' heads off.
Oh, God. This James Hollis thing's never going to die.
Can you tell I'm fired up about this one?
Anyway, Marc, thanks for coming on. This was a lot of fun. And thank you, everyone, for listening today. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up.
Oh, wait. I have one more thing to add. This is important.
Okay.
You asked me at the beginning of the show, is that Mike Brancatelli? I asked him, while we were on the air, live podcast, no. I asked him and he said no. That's actually Dave Smith's voice.
What?
Yeah, I was surprised too.
That is ridiculous. Wow.
I know.
That just totally
So
blew my
you
mind.
learn new things every day.
Blew my mind. Wow. That's nuts. Okay, well, I'll have to listen more closely next time. But
So you're welcome part of the problem for all the free ads today.
good way to wrap the show there. So this is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.